All right, students, starting now with lab 1.10, warm up basics output with variables. So it wants you to again practice making variables and practice an output. A variable like then a full program assignment, well suited for in-person scheduled lab meetings and self-practice. A variable like user num can store a value like an integer. So it's saying, hey, user num can store a number, right? Extend the given program as indicated. Output the user's input. Output the input squared and cubed. So squared and cubed, you have to do those formulas. Output squared is user num times user num. Get a second user input for user num2. The output of the sum and product. So going down here, you have a print line that's going to display enter integer. There they're going to put 4. It's going to tell them you entered 4. Tricky space, of course. 4 squared is 16, and 4 cubed. So let's think about what we're doing. We're collecting the integer. What's really throwing you off is you have this new line here where it's going to stick it. Just repeating back to them. So here's a print for a display. Print for the display of squared and a print for cube, because you can do the formula right in the print. You don't need basically what you're trying to do is going to incorporate that. Enter another integer, so you do it again. All right, so let's go to type code here. So here you go. They give you a user num equals int input enter integer, and then here's that new line I was talking about. This is what is creating that new line. So they'll enter it, and it would put it in a new line underneath in the variable. So the placeholder would have the input right here, enter integer, and then underneath it, it would line up just like it's trying to show you here on a new line. All right, so they basically, the easiest way to break this down, I could put user num2 right in there and then pull it for a recall, but I can also structure the program to pretty much be however I want. So it's easier doing user num1, user num2. Again, next up is you entered blah. So let's see how this definitely looks like it's constructed. Space entered. Alright, is that how we have it? Alright, the real tricky part, this is where the book's a pain in the ass. That stupid space. So now the way any coding is, even for spaces, you have to account for everything, right? I'll get into what Python and zero index language, I think the next chapter, and the numbering. But just know you have to account for every single space too. So boom, one space built in. And it's only because I've seen this before that I know that the book pings on that. And then specifically the book is looking for that space, and without that space it'll read it. You'll be like, hey, why am I not getting it correct? Well, you forgot the space. Alright, so now the easiest part, we're telling them, again, our placeholder has the user num, so we're telling them what the user num, you're not sticking the number in there because you're pulling whatever they put. Alright, best practices and all. It's easier when you're working your display for what your purpose is to separate it so you don't get lost. Alright, so what are we going to do? We're going to say number 4, so user num. Here's where an ID would come in handy. It would autofill that out. Now we have to input, C squared is going to be a string, it's text, right? So we're going to input text in. Don't see a space. I'm checking against what's there, whether I need to space anything. So what I have now is 4 squared is, and I need to give them what that is. So let's tack on squared. And obviously, squared is any number times itself. All right. So I believe that should be pretty dang close. I can mess with it if I'm off when I go ahead and try and check the code. So now we got to do cubed and usernum cubed. Cubed is alright, and here's where they gave you squared, but they didn't give you cubed, and cubed is just going to be 3 times. Where's my star key? Star. Usernum. Star key. Alright. So here we have 1, 2, 3, usernum times usernum times usernum. So that's going to give us 64, but then we have that. Enter another integer. Hey, user num2 equals int. So we set it as an integer, and we're telling the user manually enter another integer. And we got to do our new line. Bam. Alright, close it all. Nope, didn't close it completely. So that, remember, that one's closing that one, and that one's closing that one, and grouping it together. Should just be able to pretty much copy this over, and oh no, God, no, you got to do the numbers. Alright, they throw that wrench in, and they make it so much harder than just a simple copy and paste on RN. But alright, so our new line is going to give that, and then we just have the 2 lines. At least we don't need to put too much text in. I need to hurry up for this video. I'm at 8 minutes. Alright, so 2. Am I doing 2? Oh no. First number and second number. So you want user num 1 plus user number 2 is, well, that's pretty easy. User num 1 plus user number 2. Well, there we go. It's finding everything on the keyboard these days. Alright, 4 plus 5. So we're creating the string visual. It's so loopy that they're throwing you in the book like this, but that's what we're doing. We're creating the string visual for the user. Yeah, we manually put is in there, and then we're giving them what it is by creating the formula of them actually adding. Doing this is saying, hey, we're putting this exact, like I said, you put the single quote, you're saying exactly as it is. So you're creating that display versus that actual mathematical formula. Star. Oh, is that the right one? I'm gonna go with it. So yeah. That may ping me, but we'll find out. Let's make sure I got all. 4 times 5 is 20 is, alright, let's run this code. Please work. I am just over 10 minutes in time. Let's see. And what I hit was, looks like nomenclature. Line 5. So here, troubleshooting. I have an issue at line 5. My issue being probably the non-space on the usernum. So usernum, I didn't mess up typing anything. It still hit me on line 5. Usernum. So it should be pulling that. In input enter integer, it did. It collected it. It's getting down to 5. So I'm just trying to troubleshoot my line 5. Exactly what chaos I caused. It's telling me invalid syntax, the usernum, but I don't see where I typed anything wrong to the usernum. Oh, I see. I didn't put a comma. Alright, line 7. I didn't close it off. And then I also don't think I commaed this one. Cha-cha-cha. Good old Dale Gribble. Alright, now where to break it? Well, line 8. I did not break it there, so oh, she's magic. That's where I broke her. That's why attention to detail is the key to coding. Now, my issue is a space. So close. You entered, and it's giving a space. Expected output. Where it's saying you entered. Did not create a space. Or too many spaces. But that's tight to it. There shouldn't be an additional space anywhere. So that's what I'm down. I'm down to just getting my space out of there. Your output starts with enter, integer, you entered, and then it shows me having that extra space. That is it. Oh, it's hit me on the first one. Oh, nope, because that's not where it is. It's in my print line. Print, you entered. I didn't need that. Submit for grading. Ta-da! Again, as you see, it took me an extra, 5-6 minutes because of the commas and the spaces.